I'm a big fan of the energy in the room. The energy in the room is really important. My first tip of the evening would be, if you're trying to get a project off the ground, go and find somebody in the business that's interested. Go where the energy is. It's just like sometimes waste a lot of time talking to people that are going, oh yeah. Go and find someone who's excited about it as you are, and then go and work with them, and then pilot it and make it happen, and all of that. So go with the energy. So before I get going, I want to talk about commitments and I want to talk about appreciation. If I say it out loud, then you'll remind me when I don't do one of those things. So I want to talk about commitments first. I want to talk about commitments. Right, so today is, what's the date? 31st January. So we're now 1 month into a new year. How are those New Year's resolutions coming along? Good. The interesting thing is, if you shared it on social media, if you shared it more generally, you're 20 times more likely to actually maintain that resolution because the crowd keeps you honest. Okay? So this is what we know about human behaviour, and actually this is what we practice outside of work. So if I'm going to commit to do something, I'll tell you that I'm going to do it. I'll tell you that I'm going to do that 20k run and that I'm going to train in preparations to it. I'm going to commit to doing Dry January. Cheers, and thanks for scheduling this on 31st of January. It's really appreciated.
I thought you might be as flaky about it.
Thank you very much. Still going. And I'm going to make that commitment. And what's fascinating is the number of behaviours that we know work, that we use outside of the workplace, that when we go into the workplace, we suddenly stop doing. So for example, when we make commitments, when we set objectives, we quite often do not share them. It's a commitment made between a leader and an individual, but it's not known more generally within the team. So how can I set you up for success if I don't know what you're trying to achieve? How are you asking for help? How are you sharing those commitments? We do it outside of work. Why don't we do it in the workplace? My second point was appreciation, wasn't it? Appreciation. I was very fortunate last week to run the CIPD had to do a 2-day employee engagement conference. First day case study, second day masterclass, and I ran the masterclass. And Kathy Brown, who's the exec director of Engage for Success, which focuses on how to create high engagement workplaces, was asked at the start of the conference, what is the #1 piece from all your research that you would share with everyone? And number one tip, she's been doing this for 7 years, is to say thank you. How simple is that? And yet, how often do we do that at home and with our family and friends, and somehow in the workplace we lose some of our social grace? And particularly now, when we are dealing with, someone called it this morning, the Alexa generation. I thought that was that was the buzz term of the day for me, the Alexa generation. So when we work more in a world of commands, when we're telling Siri to do something, when we're telling Alexa to do something, we lose some of our social grace. So we will only succeed through other people. So we have to treat humans as humans. That was a good heckle. We have to treat humans as humans and tech as tech, right? And that's exactly when Charlotte was there, talking about what Varane do. It's absolutely, the tech itself is not a silver bullet. It's not going to make the difference in our lives or how we get stuff done. We have to maintain that humanity. Okay, so I just wanted to start off with a couple of points that intuitively we all know, but commitments and appreciation, and think about what that means in our organisations. Now, what I'd like to share is, a few years ago, we established the Business Culture Awards, and it was really simply about wanting to say thank you, showing appreciation for organisations that are doing some fantastic work and giving them the chance to celebrate their success and to share it with others. So I thought it would be useful. I think I've got 11 examples that I'll just share with you, and then that might educate some of the conversations that we have over a drink. Mine will still be soft, thank you. Is that all right? Is that a useful sort of 20 minutes of your time? Yeah. You're not running from the room, we'll take that, okay. So, you've got to have, we live in a social, a mobile, and a video age. So basically the work that we're doing at the moment should all be focused on those things. We are social beings. We are constantly collecting through our mobile devices, and more it's the video that's going to cut through. So anyway, I thought it's on the basis of that, I'll start with a video, right? So we will just start with a video of the night. So right at the start of the video, there was Jenny, who's the HR director of Lint, and that organisation has gone through a massive change. They've increased their workforce 20-fold over the last 5 years. And part of the way that they changed their organisational culture was to look at the business challenges. Rather than previously they'd just been left with the senior leadership team, they actually said, right, we're going to open up all these challenges across the whole organisation to contribute to. And one of the things they're very honest about is that was really challenging for their leaders, not for the whole team who are now being asked to contribute to these challenges, but for the leaders who suddenly felt some of their own power shifting. And so they had to work very closely with them as to how they would go through that. What they found is that over this 4-year journey, they increased their engagement across the organisation by 20%, and currently it's standing at 91% engagement. So that is what they have done in terms of the transformation across their business. So really focusing on the purpose of the organisation and how it's lived all the way through. Now a different scale is GKN. Now GKN have got global engineering business, 58,000 employees across 30 countries. What they did is they focused on the future of their business, what their business was going to be in 2020. But rather than focusing again on their senior leadership team, they said, right, you guys, you're the future leadership team, right? So we're going to ask you what our strategy should be. Because if we're choosing our talent correctly, you will be the ones who will be leading this business in the 2020s. So why should we, you mentioned the grey hairs, I dream of grey hairs, shall I? Why should we, the existing leadership team, be creating the strategic platform for the 2020s when we won't be here? You'll be the ones that will be leading it, so you develop it. We'll give you the data, the analysts, the access to the reports, the understanding of our partners, and you develop it. We will work with you, but fundamentally you're creating your own future and the future of our business. So it's a really different way of taking about. And they invested in the behavioural skills of that team, measured it before and after, and saw a massive change in terms of their emotional intelligence, their changed leadership, and the way that they were achieving through others as they went through this process. Next example will be the Financial Times, and I've titled this "Be Present Through Change." So often in our organisations, when we go through substantial change, mergers, acquisitions, etc., then we find that the leaders across the business go missing. They're so busy with the doing that they actually forget to be present for the team that are going through immense change. And Nick, I bought FT from Pearson. The Pearson Group had owned the FT for, I think, 35 years. So there was a huge amount of pride in that brand and in the way it had always been. So they invested in peer-to-peer feedback, reduced the personal reviews from annual to quarterly, looked at career coaching for people across the business. Career coaching to progress within the organisation that employed them today, not to go somewhere else. What did they find? Huge increase in promotions, in transfers, and the confidence of their management team increased from a scale of 5 out of 10 to 7.5 out of 10. So really took the time to invest in that change to make it a success. Transport for London, I'm sure a brand that most of us use every day, and this was about their customer experience. They really focused on the customer experience, the touch points when we were actually talking to a member of TfL, a member of the TfL team. Then they piloted this across a number of stations. They invested 3,000 hours of coaching, and they focused on the behaviours that were winning with customers. Measured customer experience before and after, and they found that there was an increase of 1/3 in terms of the customer satisfaction at the end of the programme. So really focusing on what it's like for us to go through those stations. Employee voice, this is a fascinating one. So Charles Stanley, private bank, in 2014, they were near collapse. They had put out profit warnings. They brought in a new CEO who brought in a new HR director and said the only way that we're going to turn this around is by focusing on the team that we have. So they completely focused on an employee-led cultural change across the business. So all of the programs were decided upon by the employees, led by the employees in a top-to-bottom fashion, or rather a bottom-to-top fashion. revolutionised the pride that they had in their business and the ownership that they felt for it. The result in 2017, a business that had been falling over 3.5 years previously, declared £8.8 million worth of profit. So absolutely about getting hold of the talent and the energy that was already in the business. Home office. We're talking about public sector right at the start. The Home Office really realised that the makeup of their team was not reflective of the community which they served. They did not have the black, Asian and minority ethnic employees they should have in terms of the communities in which they were based. So they really focused on a development programme and a network across the organisation. Whereas at the end of the programme, 65% of those who took part at the end of the first year had been promoted, and 5% of them had moved into senior civil servant roles. So just by taking action, getting involved, they saw an immediate difference across the organisation. AECOM, global engineering giant, real issue in terms of the gender divide between men and women, particularly at a senior level of the business. Again, by focusing on group mentoring and interview change, a large unconscious bias focus, in 3 years they saw a 30% increase in their female leadership numbers. Just by focusing on it, they made that difference immediately. Again, we're going across really different sectors here. So this is RHP. You know, RHP stands for Richmond Housing Partnership. And if you ever get the chance, you know, just have a look online at the way that they articulate themselves as a housing partnership. It completely breaks your expectations of what it's going to look and feel like inside that organisation. For example, having a TARDIS right in the middle of the office. Now, one of the point of the TARDIS was to capture ideas from across the organisation. And what they found through focusing on innovation and that employee voice right across the business, they actually identified £250 million worth of cost savings across the business, which they could then invest in new homes across their estate. They also found the difference in terms of their customer satisfaction. Their complaints level dropped by 24% in 2 years, just by getting people to create new ideas, get the ownership and implement it themselves. XPO Logistics, which you heard was the overall winner of the 2017 awards. I'm just going to pick out one example of what they did because it was pretty comprehensive, and it's a great example of using tech. They use obviously they've got a very geographically diverse workforce. So how do you connect to everyone? Very simple. Got everyone to download the Waggle app. In 1 week, 1,800 posts appeared in terms of engagement on how they could improve the business. So they've gone through a huge amount of change, and in 2 years they found a 22% increase in turnover, largely due to the innovation and the focus that had come through from their team. I want to finish with two final ones. One is the charity that we support as part of the Business Culture Awards, and that's Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children. And they're doing some fascinating work there. They're a very values-led organisation, and obviously a world-renowned one who's doing some incredibly important work. But just one leadership team from that executive, they decide that when any kind of meeting was cancelled, when they had some unexpected free time, that they would all go to a part of the hospital that they hadn't been to recently and spend some time, introduce themselves to the team there, find out what was going on. Rather than doing the thing that we all kind of fall into, which is I'll just get out my device and start answering some emails. You know, taking accountability for that unexpected free time and going and connecting with their teams. So a really simple team, a really simple tip from them. And finally, I don't know if you've heard of this network. It's called myHRcareers. It's pretty good.
I'm looking for the stars of our photos.
Great photos.
Very, very good photos. How many members?
Well, it depends which platform you look at, but about 8,000.
Go for the big number.
About 8,000, so.
8,000. And it just really shows when you have a vision and when you go out there and seek to connect, seek to build a network, seek to put like-minded people together, what you can create. And yes, one of the winners on the night was Charlotte and the whole team from myHRcareers. So it was fantastic to see these examples that just come from an idea, but actually there's the shoulder to the wheel behind it of actually making events like and communities like this happen. So that's what I wanted to share, just some ideas and some provocation, what's happening in different organisations. And I hope one theme that comes all the way through is that absolute focus. If you want to change something, if you want to make a difference, the opportunity is there, the case studies are there, and the wonderful thing about everyone who's done this work is that they're so open to sharing it. They want to say, this is what, these are the failures that we had. This is where we didn't get the coverage in terms of leadership support that we wanted. This is how we reacted differently, and this is how we saw it through to the sort of results that I've shared. So if any of those examples or any of the other case studies which you can see on the website and through other pieces of work resonate with you, please let me know, because I'm very, very happy to put you in contact with those people, and I know that they'd love to share their work as well. So I hope that's food for thought. I hope that gives you some energy at the start of the new year, and you think about what you can achieve when we really put our effort into it. Thank you.